I finally got the upgrade I've been looking for. So this is a 36 volt Minn Kota Tarova. It's got the autopilot and all that stuff like most of the expensive ones do. The factory one on this was a hand controlled. When I purchased the boat, I went to a 24, and as soon as I ordered the 24, I kind of like, yeah, you know what, I should have ordered the 36. Here it is 2 years later, I got the 36, but there's a couple of things we need to do. There's not necessities, but to make it user-friendly on fishing, the 36 volt only comes in a 60-inch shaft. That's a little long. The factory size on this range between a 50 and a 54-inch shaft. I'm going to cut this shaft down to 53 inches, giving an inch for inside, so the actual shaft will be 52 inches when I'm done. I kind of picked the happy medium between the 4 trolling motors that they had for options for the boat, you know, to size for the boat. So most bass boats do a 52 to 54 inch shaft. This is a bass boat hull, even though it's a bay boat. It sits in the water maybe an inch or two higher, but a 53, 54 inch shaft will be fine. So another thing to consider doing is cutting down the factory power wire. They come pretty long. It's probably 3 or 4 feet long. You don't need 3 or 4 feet of extra cable hanging on the deck. So we're going to cut this down and splice it the proper way. So hang on and let's cut down the shaft and attach a new plug. So this is the type of plug I have that's factory on the boat. It's a 3-prong. It's extremely heavy duty. It's waterproof. So the only tools you're going to need: wire strippers, a screwdriver, and an Allen wrench. The Allen wrench is for the inside where you put the wire. It's got 2 Allen nuts in there, or Allen screws in there, so you can tighten the cable up. Now that's usually all you have to do. I'm going to go a little above and beyond. So I am going to put heat shrink over the cable going from the trolling motor to the plug. So I literally just saved about 3 feet of cord flopping around the boat. So just make sure you only need to cut enough for the metal to go in. You don't need to strip it way back. You don't need the wires touching it all. So just pinch it, mark it with your fingers. That's what I got to cut off. Just twist them together so they're nice and compact. So when that screw comes down, it bites into a lot of metal. Now I'm going to do the above and beyond and put my heat shrink sleeve on. You don't have to do this. Make sure they're nice and snug, and slide the cap on. There is an arrow, and they line up. Three long screws. These are like twist-in screws. It only takes like half a turn, and they go down really quick. You'll see the O-ring on the outside. That'll seal when you plug it in. And then we just put the outside cap on. Slides into the grooves. This is what's going to clamp down your cable. Okay, then I'm just going to heat shrink it. And that'll be a perfect fit. Now we are going to leave it unplugged while we cut the shaft. Okay, so as you can see, this is brand new. I mean, it still has the packaging on it. Luckily, you know, for mounting it, it was just undo the old bolts, put the new bolts in in the original holes, because it's the same base plate and everything else. So that made it nice and easy. So I use the height adjustment to mark my shaft. So there's my 53 inches. That's what I got to cut. There's a few things we're going to have to do. One, we do not want to cut those wires inside. I'll be cutting this with a hacksaw, but here's a little piece of 1/2-inch copper piping. We're going to slip that over the wires and in, so when I'm cutting, if I go through too far, I will not damage the cables. You do not want to cut those cables, or you'll be cutting your shaft shorter so you can put a splice in. One of the big things I can say with this is take your time if you've never done it before. This is the third or fourth shaft I've cut down. I've never had an issue, but you got to take your time. So the first thing we need to do is take off the head. So this is your sensor and control wire for the direction and everything. You don't want to damage this. I'm going to take some tape and I'm just going to tape it off here to the side. I need to take the cover off to access the power wires. Okay, so you can see inside there's 3 wires. That's your transmitter for your positioning. Then you have a positive and negative. There's a factory clip under here. Okay, those are really really good clips. I'm actually going to leave them, and I'm just going to cut a little bit behind here. And if I decided to change my mind right now, I would have enough to strip and connect. But I'm just going to give it about 1.5 inches. That's done. Now we can take the head off and put it to the side. Taking the head off is really easy. There's one screw going right through the shaft. Okay, now we're just going to lay that down on the other side. So here's where the pipe comes in, and I'm going to have to bang this down because that's a D-shaped in there, and I knew that. I just didn't want to start banging it down and sizing it until I saw exactly how big this is in the inside. So let me get a size, and I'm going to go in the garage on some concrete floor and make this into a small D. And this is what I'm talking about when I say a D shape, because this has a flat shaft, it's not totally round. Okay, so I banged this down so it's a oval. Couldn't quite get a D out of it because it's being compressed by the hammer and the concrete. Anyways, I have my mark on the shaft. I want to make sure I have this slid down enough where I'm going to cut. So that's about 1 inch past my cut. Mark the pipe. Now when that line gets to the end, I know I'm in deep enough, so then I have no worries about cutting those power lines. Okay, that's in far enough. Now I have no issues when I cut it. Now I'm just going to cut it with a hacksaw. That's it. There we go. I had one little stubborn piece right here that I just couldn't cut. I thought I was all the way through, but it was just a little thing. I could shake it, twist it, but it wouldn't break. Anyway, so done, and note to self, I was sweating up a storm trying to get that thing cut. My blade was like butter, so I ran to the store, grabbed a brand new set of blades, cuts through it so easy. Make sure you got good blades, don't do what I did. I'm cutting it, I'm like, man, this just isn't cutting. So make sure you got a sharp blade. Okay, so we're through, there is no damage, the sleeve worked out fine. And that's it. But this makes a big difference when it's on the front of your boat and you're trying to make low casts, you know, because we normally raise our motors up a little bit because we're in real shallow water sometimes. And then if you add another 8-9 inches to it, you know, your trolling motor is sticking out on top of your boat pretty good. So we want to keep that motor down as long as possible. Now let's just drill some holes. We got to drill one hole here to put the head back on and connect the wires. Now I am going to put a vacuum on the end just to suck out any debris that might have gotten in there. When you lift up your shaft, you don't want any debris getting down into your motor. This shaft goes clear through to your motor. So I've got the head back on. Now I'm going to take my pipe, slip it through again, and gently drill 2 holes. Now you got to be careful because you can drill clear through this. This is to help protect the wires because we do not want to nick or damage the wires. If you do, there's some good alternatives. There's liquid tape, okay, that you could dab down there and that'll cover the wires so they don't arc out against each other. That's if you do, but try not to do that. Okay, so this is a 3/16 screw, but I'm going to use a 13/64 bit. Just makes it slide through a little better. Either one. So on this side, there's 2 screws holding this little clamp, which holds this. So I just removed the 2 screws. We're going to slide this out of the way. I'll drill my hole, put it right back. This is the side with the nut. Okay, now we'll put the clamp back in. It just sits in a little slot. And we put our cover back on. Okay, remove the sleeve. Let me give it one more little vacuum. And now let's just put your screw through and it should go right through. Okay, one last thing, splice these cables. You're gonna need wire cutters or strippers. I'm gonna use bare wire connectors along with heat shrink. I would suggest you use bare wire connectors. Normal wire connectors are fine. They're not waterproof. They're for automotive. I would not use them. I would use bare wire connectors and heat shrink. That would be the proper way to connect these wires. Also, make sure you can get a whole kit for $5 and it comes in handy for years. This is like the second or third kit I've gone through because I do a lot of projects. And you know, I don't film every project, but after you get the wires stripped, pick out the proper size and that's what you're gonna use. When you're using a bare wire connector, you're gonna use the one with the sharp crimp, okay? Not your standard one where you see your 3 colors. The bare wire connectors is the sharp one. And then for heat shrink, use 3-to-1 with an adhesive lining. Okay, that's your waterproofing. And these are thick walled. They're thicker than the standard heat shrink tubing. So once you find your proper size, okay, there's not a lot. That's a 1/4 of an inch. That's all you need. Curl it. So all the strands go in. Then you're going to grab it with your sharp one in the middle. And near the end, give it a good crimp, okay? That's what it should look like when it's done. And that will not come off. And then we're gonna put the heat shrink over it. I'm gonna put the heat shrink on this one now. Now, I have plenty of room in this head for spare wire, so I'm not gonna trim the wire that I cut. I'm just gonna stuff it in the box. If you do get a strand or two, one, you know, no big deal. The heat shrink's gonna go over it. But try to get all the strands in. So that's it. It's pretty simple. Just make sure you do put something around those wires. And also, note to self, use a sharp blade. Get yourself a new blade if yours is dull. Don't do what I did. I was cutting for 20 minutes and I'm like, this should not take this long. It's a 5-minute task. And so I ran to the store, grabbed some new blades, done. Again, don't be scared to do it. You're gonna thank yourself you did cut it down, especially if you're out there whacking your trolling motor all the time or if it's in the way. When it's fully down, now it's fully down. And then if I have to raise it, it's not as up 8 inches, 9 inches. That's a big difference when you're making cast on the trolling motors anyway. So good luck on your next project. Until next time, take care and tight lines.